Hi, good afternoon. Hello and welcome to the Senate Committee on Energy, Economic Development and Tourism and Committee on Higher Education, 1 p.m. agenda. This meeting is being streamed live on YouTube. In the unlikely event that we have to abruptly end this hearing due to technical difficulties, the committee will reconvene to discuss any outstanding business at 1 p.m. on Thursday, April 4th, 2024 at 1 p.m. in this room, 229, and a public notice to be posted on the legislative website. Please note, we have a 1 minute time limit per testifier. Okay, first up, SCR 145, SR 123, requesting stakeholders to update to the East-West Center study titled Hawaii as an East-West Bridge, a survey of the economic value of non-tourist international activities in Hawaii. First up to testify is Suzanne Varnes-Lum on Zoom.
Aloha Chairs Dick Hoy and Mercado Kim, Vice Chair Wakai, and members of the committees. My name is Zach Espino, representing East West Center President Susie Varis-Lum. East West Center stands on its written testimony and support and is available for any questions. Mahalo.
Thank you. Next up, testifying for DBED in support, Angela Young for CARES in support and in person.
Aloha,
Aloha.
Committee, Angela Melody Young on behalf of CARES and strong support. So Hawaii is a premier international destination, and the East-West Center was created in 1960 by Congress to foster diplomatic relations with the East-West nations, to foster cooperation, training, and research. International activity draws in support from abroad, and the research studies international activity in Hawaii, such as high technology, filmmaking, industry, fashion design, fish and candy imports, and aquaculture and agricultural research. Hawaii is also an international arts and cultural center with a diverse ethnic minority group and premier cultural museums. And the strategic goals outlined in the study are similar to the strategic goals in Hawaii Tourism Authority's Destination Management Action Plan, so HTA's DMAP, that rebuilds, redefines, and resets the direction of activity in Hawaii to focus on cultural resources and sustainable tourism. And although the East-West Center's focus is non-tourist activity, the collaboration of similar plans will further strengthen activity within the state while providing diversified economic advantages, as well as strengthening international ties with other nations. And these goals, when aligned together, will be advantageous in improving quality of life while improving visitor experience. And an East-West study, it reports about the Bishop Museum, Punch Bowl, and strategies identified to create cultural support to enhance diversity. So the East-West Center is headquartered in the University of Hawaii, and I think it's just going to be so profound to improve the quality of life and culture in Hawaii. So in strong support.
Thank you. Next up, Julia Estigoi Kaho'one in support. Anybody else wishing to testify on this measure? Seeing none, any questions? Senator Kim.
East-West Center. Aloha. So you folks did a study back in 1990?
Yes.
I can't hear you.
Yes, Senator.
Okay, and what did we get out of that study, and what has been accomplished since that study?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Chair Mercado Kim. You know, the study dates back to 1990 and was a partnership with DBED and then East-West Center Resource System Institute, which no longer exists at the East-West Center. Right now, we aren't aware of the direct impact of the report, and I think it is time to update the study since it is now 34 years later. We do look forward to partnering with DBED again, along with the University of Hawaii, as we are looking to them for the economic perspective and resources needed to update the report.
So have you folks made any attempt to update this report prior to now?
We have not.
Why not?
If
If it's so important, why haven't there been any initiation?
I can't speak to what the prior presidents have envisioned for the updating of the study, but right now we are at a time where we do believe that it is time to update the study since it is 34 years later.
Okay, so what do you think we'll do with the study? Because what we did with the study in 1990 seems to have not resulted in any kind of outcomes. So what kind of outcomes do we hope to get from this new study?
Yeah, thank you. There are outcomes that, of course, we would want to collaborate with DBED and the University of Hawaii to establish those outcomes. And that would be something that we would need to have discussions with them to move forward with the idea. And we are open to that. So we would like to have those discussions again.
Shouldn't you have that discussion before we even get into this resolution? Or should you can have that discussion and then determine to move forward? Because you don't need this resolution other than funding. And again, I see DBED is saying it's going to cost us $200,000 to update, to study. I mean, is the cost benefit there?
Yeah, that is something that we would discuss with DBED and UH if we were to involve them. We weren't aware that there was already a price tag attached to it. So we are open to the idea should there be an appropriation.
Okay, well, this is a resolution, so there is no money attached to resolutions. But, in DBED's testimony, they talk about $200,000. I guess DBED's going to take it out of their fund. Is DBED here? Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing none, recess for decision making. Okay,
Madam Chair, comments before you make a recommendation.
okay, go ahead, Senator Kim.
I'm just bewildered that nobody from DBED is here. Stakeholders that's mentioned in the resolution, there doesn't seem to be any stakeholders here other than the East-West Center people. They're just one entity, and it doesn't seem to have any outcomes in this thing. So I would like to recommend that we amend this resolution, because if we defer it, which was the first recommendation, it would die. So in hopes to keep it moving along, that we amend it to state that DBED was not here to talk about this, and that we're concerned about the amount of money that would take to update the study, and that there are no outcomes outlined. And definitely, should this thing move further, that we need to make sure there's a set of outcomes, because in the 1990 study, there seemed to not have outcomes or accomplishments. So we certainly don't want to expend any funding if we're not going to see any kind of outcomes. And Lord knows all the studies that DBED's already doing, which they already sent to us. This is just going to be one more study added to the shelf to collect us at some point.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none. Okay, so my recommendation is to pass with an SD1 making technical and non-substantive amendment needed for clarity and consistency, and in the committee report, recognizing that DBED was not here to talk about the concerns of this reso and the outcomes, noting that it's been over 30 years that this has been updated, and again, to what was the outcomes and what was the benchmarks going forward. So with that being said, Vice Chair for the vote, Chair goes aye.
I vote yes. Senator Fukunaga.
Aye.
Senator Kim.
Reservations.
Senator Favela. Senator Favela, please excuse. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you.
For higher education, same recommendation to pass with amendments and to add language to the committee report. The chair votes with reservations.
Chair votes with reservations. Vice Chair votes with reservations. Senator Fukunaga.
Aye.
Senator Hashimoto. Reservations. Senator Favela, excuse. Measures adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we are adjourned.
Well, Mike Ako, and good afternoon. Mahalo for joining today's joint AEN and HRE EET hearing. It's April 2nd, 2024, and we're in room 229 in video conferencing, which includes the audio and video of remote participants. And because of our 90-minute time limit, there will be a 2-minute time limit for all testifiers. And we have one measure on the agenda, and that is SCR 26 and SR 108, encouraging the Department of Agriculture and Hawaii State Energy Office to increase the state's usage of biodiesel and to fund programs that support the development of the biodiesel industry. First up is Department of Ag.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. Sharon Hurd, Department of Agriculture. The department stands on our submitted testimony, but commenting that any programs considered for funding should include the input of the farmers and ranchers whose economic profitability really will be relying on this project and will strengthen the biodiesel industry. We recognize the potential for byproducts and the resulting feedstock that could come from this type of operation. But we do want to comment that it is nascent. There's a lot of work to be done, and we look forward to helping with the progress of the biodiesel industry. But please keep in mind the farmers and ranchers who will be doing the actual cultivating of crop. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the Hawaii State Energy Office.
Aloha chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. Maria Tomei, Hawaii State Energy Office, will stand on a written testimony with comments echoing many of the same points as the Department of Agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Miyamoto from the Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Thank you, Chair. The Hawaii Farm Bureau will stand on this written testimony in support.
Thank you. James Forrest from Pacific Biodiesel Technologies. In support, Henry Curtis from the Life of the Land on Zoom. Henry with us on Zoom?
He's present on Zoom, Chair.
He's present? Did you say he's present? Yeah. Henry, you there? Your clock is ticking, brah. Just no pressure.
Present but not responding, Chair.
Okay, that's fine. And then we have Jacqueline Ambrose, Noel Moran, Glenn Kagamita, and Regina Gregory. Actually, Regina Gregory has comments. Jacqueline, Noel, and Glenn are in support. And James Forrest is also in support from Pacific Biodiesel Technologies. Anyone else wishing to testify on the two resos?
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES. So the advantages of using biodiesel. From the Environmental Protection Agency, research indicates that biodiesel emits 11% less carbon monoxide and 10% less particulate matter than diesel. According to a study done by the Department of Energy and Agriculture, it found that biodiesel reduces net carbon dioxide emissions by 78%. So biodiesel is a renewable biofuel, a form of diesel fuel derived from biological sources like vegetable oils, fats, recycled greases, and it consists of long chain fatty acid esters, and it is typically made from fats. So it is not the same thing as fossil fuels, because fossil fuels are the traditional energy sources that causes the toxic pollution and environmental damage.
Thank you. Anyone else? Members, any questions? Yes.
Let's see,
Is that okay?
Department of Ag or DBED? No, is it not DBED?
Senator?
It was Chief Energy Officer. Okay. So Sharon, it says in the resolution that Our Department of Ag and Office of Energy are encouraged to increase the state's usage of biodiesel and to fund programs that support the development of biodiesel. So the usage of biodiesel, do we use it? And where do we get it from if we are? And what's the use?
There
what's the
is a law for
percentage?
the 10% ethanol, so in a way that's biodiesel. But right now, we don't produce any of the corn that goes into the ethanol. The intent is to produce the bio part to insert. I think it's sunflower fields. Pacific Biodiesel was not able to be online. They're doing sunflower production, which is considered to be a really good source of the raw material for biodiesel. They're rolling out a lot of acreage on Kauai right now, and they do sunflower oil. I think maybe you've seen their product on the shelf, yeah? So right now, that's where the potential is.
So they can start using that to do biodiesel.
That I would have to refer to the subject matter experts. Our part is just to grow it. We're supporting programs that would help farmers and ranchers actually cultivate it and grow it. But the science part of it, I'm weak.
So-
I can get back to you.
Okay, if anybody in the audience, I know Brian, if you are, or the Energy Office, so what stops us from doing the biodiesel now? If the crops are being grown, if in fact sunflower or
Yeah,
corn?
you know, Senator, that was part of our testimony. We're not opposed to it, but we're saying that the vertical integration is still nascent. You know, that part of it is really not in place yet, and we'd like to, we support it. But I think the way we wrote it up was basically, let me see. The way we stated it was vertical farming. And
So Brian, can you answer any of that?
Thank you, Chairs. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. Thank you, Senator Kim. Why aren't we doing more biofuels? Well, we're looking at it. We're looking at it. In fact, HCR 213 does convene a working group to look at growing local crops for renewable energy production. One of the challenges is, again, just the cost to produce, the cost of farming. So that's the first step. And biofuels at times takes large acreages, which we don't have a heck of a lot of. And then the processing of those biofuels into, or those crops into the biofuel. Now, we're looking at this, and technology improves all the time, and we'd love to take crops that can be either off-grade or grown specific to biofuels, and then extract the oils, and then use some of the byproduct for feed. So there's been some research looking into that. In fact, I think PAR Hawaii, working with Pono Pacific, is looking at camelina to do aviation fuel. So again, we're early in the process. And from the farming standpoint, I agree with the chair, is farmers are encouraged by any potential crop that they can grow as part of their farming operation. Hopefully some of the byproducts can be maybe used for our livestock industry, but it's still early. So I did hear some of the concern where I think the department said that the farmers aren't part of this particular resolution. We support all these resolutions, which pretty much are the same. There are resolutions that, and the one I referenced does ask OPSD to convene a working group that does include a broad spectrum of participants to look into, and if I can read, it says to facilitate, I think one of them is to facilitate the local production of renewable liquid fuels, including renewable diesel, naphtha, and sustainable aviation fuels, and then other things looking at, I think, tax credits and incentives and other things. So I think that might be the first step that we want to look at. But again, we support any effort to achieve our renewable clean energy goals of 2045 that also can support our farming and ranching industries.
Well, I guess a concern that I have that I hope the farmers will consider and Department of Ag is to, yes, it's absolutely good to get these crops and to be able to get these kinds of cleaner fuels out there, but is it going to be economical? And I hate to see the farmers start to grow these things and then find out that, they spend all that time putting in these crops and yet it's just not economically feasible to go ahead and process it because the cost becomes too high. Then we have to look at subsidies, and then we have to look, and then the farmers can't, move their crops quicker. and there's no use for the residuals and so forth. So again, it requires a lot of planning because it takes a long time to go ahead and get the ground ready and grow all these crops, right?
Huge concern. You nailed it, 100%, Senator. And that's why with the camelina, that's more encouraging because it's a cover crop. So you can produce, say you're producing a food crop, and then you can use it as a cover crop, and that crop can be used for renewable energy. So again, I think we're very early on some of the research and pilots on what can be done here, because also producing biofuels could result in less food production. So there are some cautions here, and I think that's where that working group might be a better approach, so that we can at least do a little bit of due diligence with, as the department, and I think Office of Energy had suggested, with the stakeholders there to discuss, because it also includes renewable energy folks in there. It's a pretty big working group.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I have a question. Sharon, you mentioned Pacific Biodiesel, and unfortunately, they're not here. They did testify in favor. They've been in business for a while, so they're doing something right.
Expanding.
Is it basically, are they sunflowers, like you said, or are they using other crops? And what is, do you happen to know where they're
I think
selling
they're
their products?
exporting. They go to a lot of fancy food shows and they do a lot of industrial sales. Sunflower, there's some quality in sunflower oil. Maybe it has a higher burning point, I'm not sure. But it does have its niche in the culinary world. The problem with I think Pacific Biodiesel has a timeline. Right now, they're working on the processing side of it. There's a supply chain that has to go through. One of the pinch points is that you got to make $1.50 is the competitive price per gallon for this. Pretty hard. And
And is hemp being explored as a possible biofuel in terms of
I don't think it has enough oils.
Yeah,
I mean, Henry Ford was using it back when they invented the cars, right? So it's been part of the,
I think that's something that, again, that working group or a lot of these resolutions are looking at, to consider all options,
Right.
to look at what's out there, to look at what can grow here in Hawaii, what we can grow competitively. I think that's the cost of production. One of the cautions is, as we transition more to, or try to transition more to biofuels, if we can't grow it affordably, we're gonna be importing all of that green into Hawaii. And then with green, the invasive species, right, we're trying to do import replacement. So again, we wanna be mindful of how we approach this, understanding that we have a 2045 goal, understanding that we want to increase food production and increase total ag production. So again, good reso, working group, probably a better route, but this reso also would support 100%. I mean, I think it starts the conversation, discussions that we need to be having.
Senator, I think we just whispered in Pacific Biodiesel's ear.
I think we did. That's good. Any other questions?
Yeah, Chair.
Senator Richard.
Yeah, thank you. And both Brian and Chair Sit, stand by because I'm not sure who will answer this. Director, you and I have talked about having a master plan for agriculture going forward statewide. And Brian, from the standpoint of Farm Bureau, we're talking about a fabric. We have limited or a defined amount of land we can farm. Is it important to go from an energy standpoint or a food standpoint? Because there are going to be competing needs on that one. Do either of you know of I don't know if the formula is the right word, but because to the point, if we have to subsidize energy, it may make more sense to be more food, or it may make more sense to be more energy, kind of depending how that metric works out. Are you familiar with anything from the Farm Bureau standpoint, Brian? And then Director, are you familiar with anything from other states, Department of Agriculture's that have looked at this metric?
I'm not, Senator, thank you for the question. I'm not familiar with the metric. However, from the Farm Bureau's position, we would support all. We support food, feed, fiber, fuel, and floriculture. Food is critically important, but the Farm Bureau's position, we support all of agriculture. So again, it's finding what works best. Can't tell the farmer what to grow, The legislature can incentivize farmers to grow certain things, but we support all. We do understand there are some competing uses as far as renewable energy right now. And so, we're mindful of that. We do want both. We want to achieve both renewable energy and agriculture goals. But again, you're right, land is a limited and finite resource. So is water. So there are some limitations to what we can do. And again, growing things competitively has been our challenge, right? And so as much as we'd like to grow hemp and other products, we need to find what grows best here. But then also looking at when we talk about renewable fuels, maybe not having that competition. One of the projects that I think ADC had ventured into was taking waste or off-grade papayas with algae, extracting the oils for energy, and the byproduct again was feed for, I think was more for aquaculture. So looking at that type of technology and looking at how we can serve both interests together without having negative impact to either.
Okay, thank you. And Director, any comments?
For my part, the answer is food production. The article in the state constitution is conserve and protect agricultural lands for the purpose of food production. We're not opposed to biodiesel or any way the farmer can get economic profitability, but it's not in the grand plan. As our planner says, Sharon, we got plenty of land. We need more food production on the lands that we have. If they want to use Pacific biodiesel, hemp, sunflower seeds as phytoremediation, that's great. And then you have a byproduct from that you could sell to the industry. But it is, for us, it's food production, farming, ranching, aquaculture.
Okay,
Don't
thank
forget
you.
hemp granola. Yeah, hemp granola.
You and I have.
Hempcrete?
Hempcrete, hemp microgreens, that's a big one, microgreens.
Senator Rhodes had a question.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. Thanks, Chair. So one of you had mentioned a target price of, I think it was $1.50, that's what they have to get to break even, basically?
The industry faces the challenge of meeting the $1.50 per gallon threshold.
Okay.
That's what's going out
So-
there.
So is part of the reason that dollar amount is so low is because of the subsidies of other energy sources? I mean, at the federal level at least, I'm not sure we do it at the state level, but at the federal level, we subsidize fossil fuels.
Well, according to the research from our economist, the 150 is from ethanol. And if you compare between, which biodiesel you're going
So
to
you have to-
use, you would go to the
You go to
cheaper
ethanol
one.
because it's subsidized by the federal government, correct?
And it's big ag, right, Corey?
Right. Okay, no, I was just curious, because it's not the subject of this reso in particular, but it does change the economics of it if we're subsidizing other things.
Maybe
Of course, fossil fuels, that's the whole point of global warming, is it's a negative externality that we're not paying for. So everything we do right now is subsidized. It's just by whom and who pays for it when. But, yeah, no, I'm the one who put this in. I think we just have to push forward on all fronts that are conceivably worthwhile. And I understand that if it turns out just not to be feasible, it's not feasible, but I think we got to look at everything.
May I add that in some of the conferences I've been, the negative on this is that the equipment that you need to do the processing and the process of processing consumes a lot of energy.
Yeah, well, I think that's why the one on the Big Island, Honolulu, it was like
It's,
taking, I don't know all the details, but I think that was one of the criticisms of that too, is that it took more energy to produce the energy than, so, it may not be feasible, but I just feel like we got to keep pushing.
So do you guys have a list of what kinds of crops can be used for biodiesel?
ooh, I can get back to you on that. I can
Okay.
yeah.
And if you do, can those crops be processed with the company of Pacific Biodiesel that already has the equipment and infrastructure?
Yeah, because algae sure can, right?
And then what would be that crop that could be used as a bumper crop next to growing short-term food crops? So in other words, if you're growing tomatoes and you need a bumper crop to break that cycle,
Okay.
because
Oh, I see.
normally they leave the land
To
fallow.
remediate the soil.
Yeah, for remediation.
Okay.
But what would that crop be? And then, in your case, the production of food. So food is the priority, right? So I guess what I ask you is, how do you figure out with the amounts of land, and then again, to grow energy crops, can you use other types of land, whether it be grown on the mountainside versus using flat land?
Yeah, Class C and D you're talking about?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
You share that with both committees.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you,
Senator Favela?
Chair, I would just comment that in the reso itself, we do mention 3 crops, pongamia trees, sunflowers, and safflower. And we mentioned those because those appear to be the most promising, but it's just including those. I mean, we don't know what else, but there is a list in the reso.
Well, I guess because corn has also been used as well. And just trying to figure out what would be the cheaper crop to go with the better, longevity, especially since with the HCR 2 and 3,
That working
that
group.
also, the working group
They
trying
can
to factor
include
in,
algae
yeah.
too.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Favela?
The reason why I think this bill is very interesting and very much needed. So when I came into this square building, we talked about this with Cynthia Thielen and my great friend over there, Senator Mike Gabbard. The industry, the farm industry, the farm brewer industry, offline talks, never thought that hemp is a viable product. So there's no way you guys would be here today talking to us about that being a viable product, because you guys saying that it cannot do this and it cannot do that. It's proven. Ford company got threatened by the oil companies and the steel companies not to continue with his biofuel because of him taking away from the big oil companies. So if you guys like go look them up, you guys can go do them. Because after spending time with Senator Gabbard, Cynthia Thielen, I did that. First Bible was hemp. That's why it lasts so long. Ropes to this day still made out of hemp. Money was made out of hemp. Everything in this room can be made out of hemp. But the problem is, if we don't have a visionary team, the equipment gonna cost too much. Private investors want to buy it yesterday. So I'm gonna tell you guys this right now. I'm not gonna tell you where it's coming from, but we're gonna have a biofuel energy, renewable energy plant coming up, and it's gonna be targeting hemp. They need only 2,000 acres of land. The trees are gonna be grown from 0 to 14 feet. They can harvest four times or more a year to feed their production. And if not, they're gonna use the other biofuel that we have here. But the reason why is because nobody here, not nobody, I'm gonna use that word, excuse me, we're not doing it. And I will tell you guys right now, everybody else is in the hemp industry except us. We get the best weather. We can grow hemp on the side of the mountain, on the mountain, in the mountain. There's all kinds of ways of growing hemp, but we're not even entertaining it. So even like with Red Hill, I told the Navy, why don't you grab the guys from Waimanalo and go grow hemp on Red Hill to refurbish the land? There is so much potential, but again, I'm not gonna say who, but people that's giving us the advice keep saying that hemp is not a viable product. I wanna see numbers, because we're not getting numbers, and we're getting numbers from the industries and other states and other counties that it's a viable product. Okay, so when I said that hemp can be the next sugarcane and pineapple, it can. Because we don't have to always grow the hemp. We can refurbish the diseased land, then later on somebody like grow tomatoes or bean sprouts or something. But we gotta be able to have one plan. And I don't hear one plan since I've been in this building. All I'm saying and hearing is that we cannot, and we cannot. I like this because it's gonna make us look into the biofuel industry, and then we can put it maybe into the minutes or whatever, how you do them. I'm not the chair, but we can put it in that you guys need to look into how viable the product of hemp is. Because we have no pathways right now in the colleges for biodiesel industry, do we? Right now in the colleges?
We call that workforce.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, that's what I'm saying. So again, I'm not here the longest, but I've been hearing hemp from day one. I wasn't a believer till I seen the clothes, read up on them, and I really believe that. I was a believer of what I read, that Hawaii is the best climate for hemp. And that's something that we should look at as a state and the private industry. Because if we keep just talking about it, we're never going to accomplish our goals in 2045. You know, so again, if you guys can go look into them, Chair, we can figure this thing out. But I want somebody to tell me, we will look into hemp as strong as we're saying we're not going to look into hemp. Because by saying that hemp doesn't have the oil products, then how did Ford accomplish that then? His whole engine was hemp. The gas and the oil. So again, please look into them by telling our committee that hemp doesn't have enough oil to accumulate to do the biodiesel energy. I don't think that's accurate. So if you can go look for us, would be nice. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we're ready for some decision making. Okay, we'll do some decision making now for SCR 126 and SR 108. For AEN, the chair's recommendation will be to pass as is. Any discussion for AEN? Vice Chair, Chair votes aye. Vice Chair?
Thank you. On the matters of SCR 126, SR 108, Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit?
Aye.
Senator Rhodes? Aye. Senator Awa is excused. Chair, you have 4 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members.
Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism, same request. Vice Chair for the vote, Chair goes aye.
I vote yes. Senator Fukunaga.
Aye.
Senator Kim.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you.
And that concludes the SCR, joint AEN